So the Oratia Wildlife Project is a project that has existed for a number of years, but with COVID, like many groups, things sort of went on the back burner. But as we've just seen, it's more important now more than ever to look after our wildlife, because there is no division between people and planet. It's one thing, and I think what we've just seen just shows that. I also just want to acknowledge that we lost 2 people through what we've just gone through. And as Mark said, there are people who are still struggling, particularly our coastal communities. So I just want to acknowledge that. I also want to acknowledge Te Kawerau Maki, on whose land that we stand. So thank you. So, okay, Oratia Connection. I'm just calling it that because it hasn't got a name. But basically, we've got 10 acres of land. You can see it next door, just through the window there. If you see the pigs, just yell out. That'll be great. We, because I'm stupid, I just thought if we offered the council 2 hectares of land for nothing, that they'd want to take it. And initially the council staff were really keen. It helps that I work for the union that represents council staff, so we managed to get it through. And I just want to say the council staff are actually wonderful, awesome people who are on board, just like our local board. They are dealing with the money they've been given by the council. Okay, so they were on board. But next minute, Wayne Brown has his plan. He wants to cut funding. Stupid, because you've got to be strategic, right? See, if we'd said we wanted a tennis court, I'm actually pretty confident it wouldn't be the problem. So 2 hectares of land, it's a floodplain, it's there's streams, the council was keen, we have the floods, and then ironically they're saying now because of the floods they can't have a floodplain. I mean, I don't know what's more stupid than that, but the thing is that everyone deserves a home. And you've pointed out quite clearly that we don't see it here as much because the work was already done before we had the floods to get people the hell out of there. But unfortunately, we still have got some homes in Sunnyvale and floodplains, and unfortunately they were hit by the floods. Now each dot here represents someone in a house in the floodplain, just the West Auckland area. There are a lot of houses, but this is the Sunnyvale, this is the Oratia Stream shared pathway where we've still got houses. I wasn't here on the Friday night, but when the cyclone came, I went knocking on those doors because we are up from we're just here. Sorry, that's the land which we just saw before. Our property's here, and so we saw it flooding, and I ran as quick as I could down there to evacuate people because there were people still in houses that had gone underwater the week before because people just didn't believe it was going to happen again. No. So this is, I don't know if this is going to play. No, it's not going to play. Let me see, how do I play that? Just pretend it's a time lapse. There's a time lapse because after it flooded, I put a camera down there because I wanted to see what was happening. There's no flood warning systems. When the water goes over that stream, I know that it's flooding. And this bit here, this is when the waters went down, but our entire property was covered in water. People said, oh God, that's awful. It's not awful, it's excellent. It's exactly what we need. We need floodplains to flood, and we need to keep development the hell out of it, because that's what they're for. Now, it needs to be planted. It's got crack willow and all sorts of awful shit, which creates inundation, which we need to clear. But actually, we've still got floodplains in the ranges, but we've got to think it's not us that's the issue. It's when the water goes down and it narrows into that Sunnyvale areas, that's when those houses get hit. Oh, it's going to play. And unfortunately, our neighbour, who's 100% of the floodplain, lost his alpacas and his peacock's alive, which is really unfortunate because it's very annoying. But I'm an animal rights activist too. Anyway, so we just got to think. Some of us are privileged to live in the ranges or in the foothills, but we've got to think they aren't just streams that haven't been planted. They're not just streams which we need to plant because we believe in nature. They actually play an ecological function, and if we don't ensure that ecological infrastructure is there, it actually causes real problems for real people, and we have to do something about it. Normally, I'm the kind of person who says, let's make the council do it, but I actually don't think we can wait 20 years for the Greenway plan to happen. And so, luckily, we actually have a solution which has been talked about, and I don't have to tell you, but, if only we had something that could fix the problem. Well, we do, because we've got a world-leading example of it with twin streams. So, cycleways, native planting, we connect nature in a corridor, we connect people to recreation, and we connect communities, and we can mitigate flooding. So, here's where we are right now. This is Oratia, this is Sunnyvale, Henderson, Sunnyvale, Oratia. That's Twin Streams. Well, that's the Oratia part of Twin Streams. Well done, all the people here who I know made that happen. Here is the Oratia shared cycleway to the school. What we want to do is connect Oratia with its namesake. Two paths, we just want to connect that little bit right there. That's why I'm calling it the Oratia connection. So why? It's not just because of flooding, but also, I've got the school here, but my kids are going to go to the intermediate. I don't want them going up where there's the new development with Nola's. We've got a park that's already oversubscribed. They're going to put in 2 traffic lights because it's going to be so many cars up there. I want them to be able to bypass through a nice area where they can get to school. Okay, same thing with cycleway. You can cycle from here to the train station. This will save a bit of time. So it's not just about nature. It's also, we're more likely to ride a bike if it's easy and it's enjoyable. So how do we make this happen? Here's the property. That's where the Oratia connection would be. Council land, our land, bowling club. We've got the 3 parties already on board and willing to do it if we've got the money, all the community support to do it. But that's actually not the only greenway that they want to bring in. There's also one that goes up there, and we're happy to also put in one there so there's a loop, because we all know that recreational walkways are best when there's a loop, when people feel that they can go and enjoy and go around. So if this pathway doesn't happen, it doesn't matter. You can go for a little stroll down the stream, pat the pigs, put them away if they've escaped. Who's keeping an eye on the pigs? Okay, so here's the floodplain again. There's the land. Do this quickly because we've got not much time. Waiatarua Ranges Greenway. So there is a plan to put in how many kilometres? 15,000, something really super awesome within 20 years' time, if we've got the money, and we can't even have the money to do what we've already committed. People in Sunnyvale cannot wait 20 years for us to get our shit sorted. So we are happy to make our land available. The bowling club, bless them, I'm on the committee, so they had no choice. They're also keen to do it. And so we want to connect with nature, we want to connect with recreation, and we want to connect communities. It's pretty simple, really. If we can take all that awesome community spirit that we had to go and clean homes and sandbag and stuff after the problem, we can also do it before the problem by planting and mitigating the problems of flooding. Like I said, we want it to flood, remember? That's a floodplain, but we want to slow it down so that bottleneck isn't causing such a problem. You see my Eco Matters people? Give me my $5 afterwards, thank you. So what we need is to be flooded with kindness. It's really simple. We've got a problem. We know what the solution is. We've just got to get on and do it. It would be great if we could lobby the council to get funding, but I'm not going to wait for them, and we're happy to make that land available. So there you go. Cut that down in half. So I know people are going to want to go home for dinner, but if you would like to come and walk on the property, if you've brought some sturdy shoes, I'm happy to take people, but if you have to go, that's totally cool. Flick us a message and we can do it again another time. But for those here who want to come, because I need you to hold hands so I can get those pigs. I can't do my own.
This will save you answering a message I sent you before the meeting.
Oh, yes.
Seeing we've got Twin Streams local board and council here, who comes up with a plan to actually clear the debris out of the stream? It is horrendous down there on the bike path.
It is.
And not only is there all the fallen stuff, there's also a huge amount of debris out of those houses. The
yes.
fences and roofing iron, God knows what else is actually in the bush. Some of which has been cleared by council, but still.
Most of it has actually been cleared by local bike groups, actually. So someone came and says, oh, finally the council's gone and cleaned up a bit. No, they actually didn't. It's local bike groups. Yeah, no, it's cyclists have been going. Oh, sorry, you mean further up here?
In the bush side.
Sorry. Along the Oratia Stream pathway, bike clubs have been doing it. Good on them. Up here, though, you mean where there's no path, nothing's happening?
No, I don't mean this side. I mean the other side of Cars Crossroad.
Yeah.
Down the bike path.
Yeah.
There's still a lot
there is.
of flood debris in the bush.
I've talked to the council and essentially, I mean, basically the budget that we've got is a symptom of a broader direction that the super city has been going through. The staff are having to triage the work that they can do, and so what they're doing is they're focusing on trees that are likely to fall on houses or infrastructure first. I've asked them about Oratia Stream and they've told me we'll get to it in probably about 12 months. So I've got volunteers though, the student army, they're waiting for me to say it's time to clean the streams. We've got some local community groups, which I think you've been involved in, who are keen to call for a day, because we don't want just little groups doing stuff. We need all Aucklanders to know, here is the day where everyone goes and loves their streams, because it's...
Pine trees fallen in there now.
Yeah, yeah, those huge ones. Yeah. Well, we won't be able to move them, although I think you probably could with your willpower alone. But yeah, but we've got, like I said, I've got about 1,000 students ready to go, but we actually don't want to be just bringing in students. We need community groups to get stuck in, but we don't want to burn ourselves out cleaning. We need to put our submissions in, because I know that sounds a little bit lame, but actually putting in a submission will achieve more in the long term than us going and cleaning the streams, because it's a systematic, fundamental underfunding problem.
My concern...
So there's a backlog of stuff to be done. Absolutely lodge it.
Yeah.
Make sure it does. There is a community response, and it is absolutely important that the community, because you can't wait.
No.
And the third thing is be strategic and get in there and try and make it.
So you can go and clear it. Where does the stuff go? How do you get it out?
So the council's still taking stuff. So I've been working with some groups who are ready to do this. The problem is that we don't want to divert too many resources from our coastal communities, because people are still dealing with awful shit, including up on Scenic Drive. But for those who are ready and able, there are health and safety plans. There's ways to dump stuff. We've got people who are volunteering to do it. But we just need a small group of people willing to coordinate it, because if you don't have a small group of people coordinating it, it will be haphazard. Like, just as an example, with my stream, we've got a blockage, but that's actually not the priority. The priority is actually Oratia stream, not Kodemu stream. But, if we don't clear this and there's another flood, inundation can have water backing up, and then when it breaks, you have a quick rush of water. That is what causes internationally loss of life, because people see the water rising, but when you have inundation, you're talking huge velocity, and so I'm keen to help.
If you've been down that track, you'll have seen the metre-high log, which is about 12 or 15 feet long, that used to lie on the side of the track on the bush side.
Yes.
Which got hurtled by that flood down the track and over towards someone's house. What really scares me is that all of that wood that is currently in the stream, the same thing could happen again.
Yep.
And there could be a death. So easily.
Absolutely.
I spoke to the guy whose house the log is currently pointing at.
Yes, I talked to him too.
And
Yeah.
he said that if those few trees hadn't stopped it, it would have gone straight through his house.
Yeah. Well, if anyone comes for a walk, you will see that there are 40-metre trees with roots that are 7-8 metres high sitting in the floodplain, and so there's some stuff we can't do. But because we've got to wrap up, I suggest that anyone who's interested in doing that work, please let me know. I've got people who are keen. We just need to make sure we're prioritising the greatest risk. But the great point.
Can you just quickly outline a couple of specific plants that you will be planting that we can do in our own properties as well?
Yes, we have got a planting plan, but it needs to be updated. Someone asked the question before, but I can tell people while we're walking, because some people do want to go for a walk. So if you're really interested in that, we can have a chat while we're walking. Otherwise, happy to share our planting plan. Is that all right?
Yeah. How can we get hold of your planting plan?
We will get that sorted probably next couple of weeks. Wally, go quick, because we're going to wrap up.
Okay. Share it on Facebook. Saying, what do you do with this rate? I can't do it as a donation, but we have all the equipment to multiple trees on site. Actually just go in there with machines and pull them out and actually just dump one straight on site, so they will just stay there as mulch.
Yeah, that's a good point, Molly.
A lot cheaper than actually trying to remove them, pull them out.
Are you volunteering that?
I can't volunteer it.
But what you're saying is you can be available to assist someone who's got a critical issue that needs to be resolved. Okay, I'll pass it back.